All right, today we're diving into this really provocative new idea, a kind of social contract for the super rich, and it completely flips the script on things like philanthropy, purpose, and, public responsibility. It all kicks off with a question that honestly is pretty unexpected.
So get this. The entire philosophy we're looking at today hangs on this one single question. What is the true purpose of a billionaire's wife? And according to the thinker behind this, the fact that we don't have a good answer, well, that's not just a small thing. It's actually the root of a huge societal problem.
And you can see the contrast right here, laid out plain and simple. On one hand, you've got the corporate chairman. He's this public figure, right? A pillar of the economy. But on the other hand, what about his wife? She's often seen as, well, not having a real meaningful social role. Instead, she gets criticized for her private life. And it's this imbalance, this disconnect that is supposedly the core of the whole problem.
Okay, so that leads us right into our first big point, what's being called the elite's dilemma. And look, this isn't just about someone feeling unfulfilled. It's framed as a full-blown crisis of purpose, and it has very real consequences for how we, the public, see our corporate leaders. So the argument goes that because there isn't this defined, noble purpose, it leads to what are called unfulfilling activities. We're talking about things like opening a little boutique bakery or, shopping for gold-threaded curtains. And the big critique here isn't just that it's frivolous. It's that these things actually put the super rich in direct competition with regular people instead of using their position to, lift up society. And here's the real kicker. Because the chairman and his wife aren't seen as working together as a team, really, for the public good, the chairman himself doesn't get the genuine respect he might otherwise deserve for his work. It's like the family unit as a whole isn't being seen as this force for social progress.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The proposal is a whole new social paradigm, a new way of thinking. The big idea is to create a brand new, powerful role for the elite wife, one that comes with a pretty symbolic title. They call this new setup the nation's parents. It's pretty straightforward. The chairman gets to be the nation's father, right? He keeps doing his thing, building the economy. But his wife, she takes on the role of the nation's mother. And her job is massive. She's in charge of the country's internal welfare, basically tackling all the big social issues from the inside. So how would this actually work? Well, it's a very clear top-down method. Step 1, the elite wives get together and set up a big social welfare foundation. Then, because of who they are, their prestige just naturally pulls in other powerful people. And finally, the idea is that this leadership at the very top will inspire everyone else, the general public, to get on board. It's like a wave of social change that starts at the peak and flows down.
But wait, how do you pay for all this? That's the next big piece of the puzzle. It's called the win-win donation, and it's pitched as this perfect, self-contained system for social good.
The mechanics are actually super simple and direct. Instead of giving money to a bunch of different outside charities, the corporations just funnel their profits right into these new foundations, the very same ones run by their wives. See how that works? The money basically stays in-house, in this closed loop, managed directly by the nation's mother. And this is why it gets called a win-win. Let's break it down. First, it gives the wives meaningful, respected work to do. That's a huge win. Second, it ticks the box for corporate social responsibility. Big time. Third, these foundations then hire top minds, intellectuals, researchers to solve real problems. And, maybe most importantly, all that money just keeps circulating right here in the national economy. It's all presented as this perfect, flawless system. Okay, now this is where the whole philosophy takes a really sharp turn away from everything we've been taught. It proposes a total reversal of how we think about charity. There's a new rule, and it's simple. You have to give publicly.
For centuries, the traditional wisdom has been all about quiet, anonymous giving. It comes from that famous line, right? Let not your left hand know what your right hand is doing. That's been the gold standard for how to do charity for, well, forever.
Well, this philosophy argues that we've completely misinterpreted that idea. The claim is that the original meaning wasn't about being secretive with your actions. It was about being humble in your spirit. In other words, the point was to not get arrogant about your good deeds, not to literally hide them from everyone.
Because, according to this worldview, the rules have changed. The argument is that in today's world, in an age of widespread corruption, sticking to that old rule of secret giving isn't just outdated, it's actually dangerous.
So let's break that down. The thinking goes like this. When you donate in secret, there's a huge risk of embezzlement. The source calls it bibbendang. And if that money gets misused, you, the giver, share in the blame.
But if you donate publicly, everything is transparent. It's out in the open for everyone to see. So someone misuses the funds then, the blame falls only on the person who spent it, not on you.
And that brings us to the final piece of this, and it's probably the most profound part of the whole argument. This isn't just about practicalities or good PR anymore. We're talking about the deep, almost spiritual stakes of giving.
This right here is the ultimate justification for public giving. The idea is, if you give in secret and that money gets used for something bad, you are spiritually on the hook for it. That sin, that karmic weight, literally follows your soul after you die. But if you give publicly, your job is done. Your duty is fulfilled the moment you give the money away. The responsibility is transferred, and your soul is clear, no matter what happens to the money afterward.
And it all wraps up with this really powerful thought. A mistake that an ignorant person makes, that can be forgiven. But a mistake made by someone who is knowledgeable, someone with money and influence who absolutely should know better, that kind of mistake can't be forgiven. The weight of responsibility on them is just so much greater.
Which really leaves us with a huge moral question for today, doesn't it? In a world that's becoming more and more transparent, who really carries more of the blame? The person who gives the money away or the person who spends it? It's a really tough one, and there's definitely no easy answer.